Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Salmon17, and today we're gonna talk about one of my favorite animated Transformers reboots, and that is Transformers Prime. Transformers has been a huge part of my childhood, and since the 80s Transformers cartoon and also Beast Wars, I've been a huge fan of, giant robots transforming into certain things, vehicles, animals, and stuff like that. But I never have seen an animated show. Well, I never seen Beast Wars fully, but there's one Transformers show that I did manage to watch entirely, and that is Transformers Prime. Transformers Prime is a show that aired in 2010 and aired in 2013 with Transformers Prime movie or Beast Hunters movie as a finale of the show, and it has been the show has been running for 3 years, and for those who want to watch a very good reboot of any kind, I would highly recommend checking out Transformers Prime. This show is just magnificent. First off, let's look at the voice actors. Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, I'm sorry if I pronounced his name right, last name wrong. Return as Optimus Prime and Megatron. And let me tell you, these two are the best roles for these characters. I'm gonna get into the characters later. Then we have Steve Bloom as Starscream, Kevin Michael Richardson as Bulkhead, Josh Keaton as Jack Derby, and we even have Nolan North as Smokescreen. Oh my lord. Seriously, that is just, oh my god, that is a really good casting choice. Like, any show that has Josh Keaton in it, I feel like it's a very good show, but that also depends on if the show creators do their job to making a good show. As for the characters, I'm gonna get this off my chest. Compared to all the other Transformers media, these Optimus Prime and Megatron are basically in Transformers Prime show are the best and my favorite interpretations of these characters. Optimus Prime, for example, I really like how he has this big, huge leader role, and also they gave him like a father figure role. And Peter Cullen, does a magnificent job as Optimus Prime. Seriously, I can't imagine anyone else doing justice to Optimus Prime as the voice for Optimus Prime. And in Transformers Prime, they really did justice with the character because unlike in G1 Transformers where he's like super patriotic, or in a Bayformers movie where he's like super violent and aggressive, he's basically like a combination of both, but at the same time he's not like, he's very kind, he always is there for other Autobots and also for humans. And man, I just love Optimus Prime in this show. Like, he's like one of those mentor type of father figures you want in your life. He's kind of like the similar situation with Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and what other character I tried to add Captain America from Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and I just love that. Megatron, on the other hand, holy shit, this is like the darkest version of Megatron I have ever seen in any animated show yet. Sweet Lord, this guy's, oh my god, I keep forgetting voice actors. I apologize. I always keep on forgetting names, especially real life names. So I apologize for that. Of course, I need to turn off Google. Frank Welker. Frank Welker does a really menacing Megatron. Like, holy shit, he does such a phenomenal job on this show. Like, he has this omnipresence to him. Like, this Megatron is like, if you even blink at him wrongly, he's gonna like stab you through the chest. I'm not even kidding. Like, this Megatron is very intimidating, very strong, very powerful, and this is what I really like about the show as well. Like, the Decepticons feel like an actual threat, unlike in the battle scenes. Oh my god. I'm just gushing about the show. Like I'm not kidding. This show is so good, but the fact that it sucks that I don't have a Blu-ray set or even a DVD set for all 3 seasons and the movie for the Transformers Prime, because this show is so good to not to get the collection for the show and watch it at your home, because this show is so good. Transformers Prime, another character I really like is Starscream. Now, Starscream is both a hilarious and also a very intimidating bad guy. Like, unlike in other interpretations of Starscream, he's very manipulative, he's very condescending, he's very clever as well. And of course, they made him skinny looking a little bit, mostly because he's very fragile and not very powerful, but he's very clever, and that's why when you watch the show, that's why you realize that's why he's the second in command of the Decepticons, standing next to Megatron. Another, for example, Autobots are really great. Now, for the show itself, I want to talk about, like, the show itself is basically like a homage to all the other interpretations of the previous Transformers mythos. The G1 Transformers, this War of Cybertron games, which I played and beat War of Cybertron, but I can't play it anymore on my PC because I don't know, Windows 10 doesn't allow all the games. So yeah, and also the Bayformers movies, especially if you can look at the character designs, they kind of look similar to Bayformers a little bit, especially with what they did with the Bumblebee. They made Bumblebee the mute Bumblebee like he was in the Michael Bay Transformers, but unlike in the Michael Bay Transformers, where he's like nothing but a marketing tool, he's actually a very deep and very emotional character, and you kind of feel sorry for him. There was this episode where Bumblebee loses his T-cog, basically like a Transformers organ that lets Transformers, scan for vehicles and transform, and also build out their weapons. But without that, they're basically like random civilians, only like 10 times bigger than a human being. And because of that, it gives a very good character development, not just for Bumblebee, but also for Ratchet. Ratchet is a very, very well written character in the show. He feels he's an old war veteran, he's an old friend of Optimus Prime, and you feel very sorry for him. Like he feels like he wants to do more than just sit around opening and closing ground bridges or fixing up wounds for certain Autobot, for his comrades, the Autobots. And I kind of feel sympathy for him, because I feel kind of the same way as Ratchet does. Like, sometimes I'm getting tired of always sitting around in my home all alone, and I feel like I want to do something more. I want to be something that people can look up to and something like that. And that is something I really feel like really personal with Ratchet, because especially in the episode where Bumblebee loses his T-cog, you hear a backstory from Ratchet how Bumblebee loses his voice box when he explained it to Raph, the human character of the show. I will get into human characters later, but Ratchet tells that Bumblebee had an information that Megatron wanted, but Bumblebee refused to tell him that information, and because of it, Megatron ripped out his voice box, and Bumblebee almost lost his life, but Ratchet saved Bumblebee's life. But Ratchet still feels guilt, and like he feels really useless. He can't, like, at one point he says, but of course the medic could have done better. And man, you feel sorry. Like this show is very emotional. Like this show really tells a story about war in a very mature and very well written way, unlike She-Ra. Yeah, you see this? I'm giving you the middle finger, She-Ra fandom. This is how you tell a war story. Go back into your shame corner with you. Ah, Christ. But still, I'm sorry a little bit my outburst, but But still, this show is really good, and oh my god, very emotional. Like for example, RC has also a very interesting character arc. She loses two of her Autobot partners, Tailgate, which we barely know anything about, but we know that Tailgate is a character that was driven by RC's rage, that was killed by a black arachnid, a Decepticon, and RC and Black Arachnid have this huge rivalry with one another, and kind of similar with Bulkhead and Breakdown and Optimus Prime and Megatron, and also with Ratchet and Knockout. Sometimes I keep forgetting some of the Decepticons. I do apologize, but this is a really well-written show. And RC, when she meets a human partner Jack, she feels like she feels guilty. She doesn't want to feel the same pain as she felt in the War of Cybertron, during the War of Cybertron, and she doesn't want to lose Jack the same way she lost Tailgate and Cliffjumper, which was Cliffjumper was a character that was introduced in the first episode. Also, one of the first Autobot casualties that passed away, was killed off by Starscream. And what I love about the show is the fact that it also doesn't tone down the violence, the death. Like when certain characters die, they stay dead. They don't come back from the dead. Well, except for Cliffjumper, but then we'll get into that story a little bit later. Because each season tells a different story arc, but like I said, I will get into that later. Cliffjumper, you know, dies. There's another character. I keep forgetting his name. Skyquake, no, Skyquake was introduced in the 6th episode, but he quickly passed, you know, died, of course. There was his brother, but I keep forgetting his name. Like I said, I haven't watched the show for a long time, so I apologize if I forget a few things, but like I said, this is why I really want to have Blu-rays or DVDs for that show, because it is so good. It's such a good show. Oh my god. But, Dreadwing, oh my god. Dreadwing, Jesus Christ, I feel so stupid. I had to look it up on Google. Oh my god. Dreadwing is also a very interesting character, but still, then this show is such an amazing show, and oh my god, like this show is so amazing. Bulkhead is like this very big tough guy. He's always there for the team. He always takes like these big hits, and he's like a freaking tank of the team. Like basically the tough guy. He's not very smart, but also he's very he has a huge courage. He always tries to stand up for the other Autobots. Tries to, you know, toughen himself up, you know, to look good in front of his teammates, because he's part of the part of the special squad. Like Autobots are ranked, which is also really like Bulkhead and also his partner Wheeljack are wreckers. Optimus Prime is the leader of the Autobots. Bumblebee is the scout, and I think Smokescreen is warrior class, I believe. And Ratchet is the field medic, but that's what I really loved about the show, because it actually gave a shit about making a good show instead of, you know, making it like a huge toy commercial like for many years Transformers shows have always been about, mostly toy commercials, but also they try to tell very good and very mature stories, especially about war, especially between the war of Autobots and Decepticons. Basically kind of like twists and turns between World War II type of you know, storytelling. There was also a very interesting story. There was an interesting line in between Optimus Prime and Agent William Fowler, where Optimus asks Fowler if humanity never been to a similar war like us Autobots or Decepticons been, and Fowler says, well, yeah, but it was a different kind of war. Like, it is showcases that we humans and the Cybertronians are no different between, you know, as species, because even humans are quick to drawn towards aggression or power or greed or many other things. That is really cool that kind of topic, even though it was small dialogue, they took their time to actually tell it. Like, yeah, we humans had kind of wars, like referencing World War I or the Civil War or the Roman War, you know, gladiator battles or something like that, or World War II. And yeah, in showcases, yeah, we humans are no different than you know, you Cybertronians that had centuries of war between Autobots and Decepticons.
You know, you're saving my bacon here, Prime.
I am proud to be of service.
Of course, not like I'd need your help if you and the cons had stuck to tearing up your own corner of the galaxy.
Are you suggesting that no evil existed on your world before we arrived?
Well, it was a different evil.
Oh my god. Now, of course, when I talk about the show, I always sing songs of praises. Now, let's talk about the story arcs. Now, of course, the first season story arc is about Dark Energon, or the Unicron arc. Dark Energon is basically a life force that is that created Unicron. But it's basically the anti-spark which Megatron discovered on Cybertron, and also it has the power to you know, bring out the Cybertronian dead. And Megatron had this plan to bring out the dead Cybertronians as, you know, little zombies all the way to Earth. You know, to conquer the Earth. And yeah, considering how big Cybertron is compared to Earth, you know, it will create mass chaos and destruction all over the Earth, and that is really cool. The next arc is about these Cybertronian archives or something like that, like with mystical artifacts, ancient mystical artifacts or something like that. And then, yeah, that is really cool. You know, a scavenger hunt basically, and that is really cool. And the third arc is basically the story arc where they introduce Predacons. I wish. But no, not those Predacons from Beast Wars. I'm talking about the Predacons in the show. The very first Predacon that was introduced was the Predaking, and it showcases the, and also they introduced a new Decepticon, or some people know him. Many Transformers fans know him really well, and that is Shockwave. And Shockwave has this omnipresence similar to Megatron. Basically, like design-wise, Megatron and Shockwave kind of look very similar, except Shockwave has one eye on his face and he doesn't have a mouth. But still, Shockwave's design is very cool. Another fact I really want to talk about is the Decepticons of the show. And the Decepticons also have very cool, very interesting characters. I talked about Starscream and Megatron. There's also Knockout, that is basically a comic relief of the Decepticons. His entire dialogue is basically like, "Look at what they did with my paint job," like kind of similarly with kind of like people who are obsessed with super hot cars or something like that. Kind of similar, kind of like we Need for Speed or something like that. And then there's Breakdown, and damn, Breakdown's fate. Oh sweet lord. I'm gonna touch into that later, but let's just say his fate is kind of messed up when you think about it. Then there's Soundwave. Now Soundwave was a little bit of a surprise for me, because I always used to Soundwave that sounds like super robotic, has this like a techno music kind of voice or something like that. You know, the original G1 or the Transformers animated voice. Like he has this. Basically, he's the only character that sounds robotic, but he's a very silent protagonist. He barely says any words except for Beast Hunters, where he says the iconic line:
"Soundwave superior, Autobots inferior."
And that is really cool. And Soundwave is a very intimidating villain. Like the fact that he doesn't talk gives you this very scary feeling, like something it doesn't feel right. And he also is also very strong and very powerful. And the fact that he's very loyal towards Megatron, and whoever defies Megatron or wants to ban him is like, no, you don't go ban him. He doesn't say a single word, but he just they use visual storytelling basically to tell what the Soundwave is thinking, like showing him his movements, like showing him the finger or something like that, and that is really interesting what they did with Soundwave in the show. Black Arachnid, like I said, she's the rival for RC. She's very manipulative. She's like a kind of very, I don't know, she's like the only female villain in the show, but she's very doesn't like working with the Decepticons a lot of the times, and she even ends up with fights. She can control the Insecticons that also are introduced in the show, and many other things. And then I don't know what happened to Black Arachnid. Like some stories did not. Weren't fully, developed. Like for example, Black Arachnid's arc wasn't fully developed in the show, and yeah. But still, the show is a really good show. Now, one of the things I kind of tried to tolerate were the human characters. Now, Jack Derby, voiced by Josh Keaton, was a very interesting and very well written character. There was also Raph, who's a hacker, who's a 12-year-old hacker. And then there's Miko.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
How should I describe Miko? She's very annoying. Oh my. Now, of course, she does get better as the series goes on, but her character, dear Lord, I just want to... Miko is a character that is really hard to tolerate, and... I really hope I can see through with her, but she does have a very good bond with Bulkhead, and that's what I really like, because she does... When Bulkhead gets into trouble or does something very tragic or something very serious happens, she does have emotions. She does show that she's still deep down inside the human. There's also another human being that joins the Team Prime, and that is Jack's mother, who's a nurse. And then they use this line in the show, which honestly it still surprised me that they got away with this. Just listen to this and don't tell me this is not the weirdest shit you have ever heard.
So, where's Optimus?
On a scouting mission with Bumblebee. Sorry to disappoint.
And I wore heels and everything.
Mom!
Excuse me, what?
Yep. That really happened. Oh my god. This show, man. Oh my god. Yeah. Do you see why I love the show? Because it doesn't talk down towards its audience, despite the fact that this show aired on the Hub Network, the same network that aired My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, and then later on moved on to Cartoon Network as well. But still, this show was something else, and the fact that they got away with such adult jokes is a huge plus to me. Good on you, Transformers Prime. And then there's also a human. There are also human villains called Mech. Now they kind of like people who are very obsessed with technology, want to and they are led by a group of villains called a group of a human called Silas, and he's very like, oh my god, Silas is one crazy bastard. Like, he creates Nemesis Prime, he then dissects Breakdown so many times, which ended up in his death, and then used Breakdown's body as his own, and then joins the Decepticons. And then when he fails Megatron, there's actual human death in the show. I'm not even kidding. Silas actually legitimately dies in the show. Oh my god. So yeah, Transformers Prime is worth it? Absolutely yes. If you love Transformers, if you're a big fan of Transformers, or want to see a very good Transformers reboot show, I would highly recommend watching this show. The CGI in this show is also very well done. It doesn't feel cheap, and it doesn't feel very cheap, and it does tell very mature story, and does a very good job telling very mature stories, and showing actual deaths, talking about war, and this show is very good, and I would highly recommend anyone who wants to watch a very good Transformers show. This show is a very good interpretation of Transformers mythos, and this is a show I would highly recommend watching for anyone who are fans of Transformers, or for those who just started off as Transformers fans. Of course, there's also the problem that it did come with a sequel called Robots in Disguise, but the less said about that show, the better. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed this review of Transformers Prime. Leave a like and share this video with others, and this is Sam117 signing off.